Hi everybody, welcome to my homestead and welcome to my channel. In this video, okay, so I finished my live stream. If you haven't seen the live stream, go check it out. There's some big channel news. Just two things really quick. Okay, before I get into this. One, I'm going to be doing an interview with someone from Israel 365. So this would be an Israeli Jew. And we're going to do an interview on the channel. And they're going to do an interview with me and put it on Israel 365. So that's really cool. If you have questions that you would like me to ask about Judaism, Israel, Jerusalem, the Temple Mount, Third Temple, whatever, put it in the comments below. Secondly, in that live stream, I invited people to, if you've converted from another religion, to do an interview with me. I'd like to talk about your conversion story. It may help out somebody else that's also considering joining the church from the same religion that you converted from. So after I was done with that live stream, I checked the daily news like I usually do, and I saw this on Deseret News. Finland and Sweden have officially been invited to join NATO after Turkey drops veto. Now, that blew me away. That blew me away because I guess in my mind, I didn't think it would ever happen. And I remember that Russia had made all sorts of threats against Finland, Sweden, and we're actually going to go through some of that in just a minute here. I pulled up those stories so you can get an idea of what Russia's position is when it comes to this. Why is all this important? Well, this is just another, we have the war going on in Russia or in Ukraine being invaded by Russia. So we have a war and we have rumors of wars. In fact, we have stuff going on with a meeting that NATO just had in Madrid, that some stuff that has never happened before. So we're having wars and rumors of wars. This is a sign of the times. Okay, so again, this stunned me. I didn't think that this would really ever happen. Just goes to show how much I know about geopolitics. Sweden and Finland were formally invited to join NATO on Wednesday after weeks of pushback from Turkey concerning their membership, according to CNN. The news. During a NATO summit in Madrid, officials of the military alliance extended a formal invite to Sweden and Finland to join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. And I'm just going to read these first three bullet points. First one, quote, "Today we have decided to invite Finland and Sweden to become members of NATO and agreed to sign accession protocols," NATO officials said in a declaration per Fox News. Quote, "The ascension of Finland and Sweden will make them safer, NATO stronger, and the Euro-Atlantic area more secure." I sure hope so. This is definitely uncharted territory. I don't know what Russia's going to do. Again, we're going to read what they've said before. I don't know enough about it. And even if I did, I still think that even the experts don't really know what's going to happen whenever things like this occur. When it came to the war, first of all, I did not think that Russia was going to invade Ukraine. That was too far out there for me. It was such a bizarre idea. And yet it's happened. Once it did happen, I thought that Russia would easily overcome Ukraine and take it maybe within the matter of a week or two, and that is not the case. So, and again, I don't think really anybody knew for sure. So I guess the point is, I think that things are very volatile right now, and no one really knows what's going to happen. Doesn't matter if you're an expert or not. You can have a really good educated opinion, and maybe you'll be right, but you could also be wrong. Okay, bullet point number 2. This news comes just one day after Turkey dropped its veto against the countries joining the alliance, the New York Times reported. Bullet point 3. Turkish leaders previously opposed the new alliances and accused the countries of involvement, according to the Deseret News. Okay, so let's take a look at what's going on, first of all, with Ukraine. This is kind of like an update. I haven't really been following it too much because, again, it hasn't been as swift as I thought it would be. And I've kind of viewed this as just being a protracted war that will take a long, long time, since they didn't do it right away, that this would just be a long process. And it seems like that's what's happening. But I have this BBC article pulled up. This is from 2 days ago. And we're just going to look at the maps to kind of get an idea of how much quote unquote progress Russia has made. So here's one map focusing in on the eastern side of the country. Here's the pre-invasion. This is kind of the, well, it says right here, the yellow was the Russian-backed separatist-held areas, right here in yellow. Okay, and since the invasion began, they've made pretty good progress in this part of the country, especially in the Luhansk region, because now it is pretty much all in this red right here, which is Russian military control, and this little part right here, that's Russian advances. So Luhansk is basically taken over. Donetsk, not so much, but it more than before the invasion. Okay, so that's what that looks like. Let's look at a few other maps. Here's a wider map. You can see that Russia is also down here. So you're looking at Donetsk. They have Mariupol down here. I know that that's like a major city. Um, but also over here, Melitopol, this city, and this just like the southern coast of Ukraine. And I think there's yet, excuse me, there's yet another map if I remember right. Okay, this is basically the largest map. So it shows, they have the Crimea, they've made that progress over here in the east, and then they have um, more than half, I would say, more than half of the southern coast of Ukraine. So it doesn't look like they have this Odessa area or over here, just like this little portion, but okay, so that's that. Oh, then here's here's the full map right here. So, you know, they were thinking, it seemed like their intention in the very beginning was to take the entire country. Um, I haven't looked at that at it now. I think that they kind of walked it back and they just want to, liberate these eastern parts of the country, from their point of view. I don't really know, and I don't care too much about that, but this is where Russia is right now in Ukraine. Mostly the southern coast and then the eastern part of the country. Kiev is all the way over here. So somehow or another, Ukraine is holding on. Okay. So let's look at this NATO meeting. Okay. Embrace of NATO in China's backyard, Stokes Xi's worst fears. Okay, so now we're talking about China. Okay, we're gonna get back to like Sweden and Finland, but so we're talking about China here with this meeting as well. So we have the invitation for Sweden and Finland to join, and also during this conference, it says for the first time, the leaders of Japan, South Korea, Australia, and New Zealand will all attend a summit of the 30-member North Atlantic Treaty Organization. So why is that weird? Well, it's because it's the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. It's not the World Treaty Organization. If we go to the map over here, so here's the North Atlantic. If you're not good with geography, okay, and I'm not trying to call anyone dumb or anything, but here's the North Atlantic, right? You have the United States, Canada, United Kingdom, the Western European countries, and we have like Turkey's part of it. So this is the portion of the world that we're looking at when it comes to this alliance. But now, for the first time, they have invited people from this side of the world. Japan in the Pacific, South Korea in the Pacific, Australia in the Pacific, and also, I guess, also the Indian Ocean. Right. So the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, my understanding is that it was created after World War II in response to the Soviet Union. Okay, so it was an alliance to counter the Soviet Union. So it makes sense that geographically speaking, it would involve these countries. Not so much countries, over here on the other side of the world. So what's going on with that? All right. At the meeting, starting Tuesday in Madrid, the alliance is set to label China a quote, systemic challenge in new policy guidelines for the coming decade, reflecting shifts in geopolitical landscape as President Xi Jinping increasingly joins hands with Putin in opposition to worldwide democracies. While the U.S. has dismissed the idea that an Asia-Pacific NATO is in the works, um, and if it was, let's just pretend, hypothetically speaking, I guess if that ever became the case, they'd probably have to rename the organization. It would have to be like North Atlantic and Pacific Treaty Organization. So NAAPTO. Okay, so while the U.S. has dismissed the idea that an Asia Pacific uh, NATO is in the works, the Biden administration has strengthened ties with partners in the region to both push back against China's assertiveness over disputed territory and sanction key officials over alleged human rights abuses in places like uh, Xinjiang and Hong Kong. Fears. Okay, now here's a rumor of war. Fears are also growing that Xi will look to invade Taiwan in the coming years, potentially triggering a wider war in Asia. So let's go back to our map. Again, this was something that we were talking about when the invasion was first happening. If Russia, so before it happened, we were talking about how if Russia does this, will this encourage other actors on the world stage to do something similar, right? Russia has an interest in Ukraine because Ukraine is kind of a buffer between Russia and NATO. You see how it's kind of like in the middle here, even though you have NATO up here in Estonia. I think all three of these, Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia, are NATO. But anyway, Russia had this big buffer in Ukraine between Russia and NATO as far as like, I guess, conventional war, land forces, maybe even nuclear deployment. I'm not sure. I'm not like an expert in military things, but so if Russia did this, which they have, this started out as a rumor of war and then it became a war, and now has that emboldened China, who looks at Taiwan um, kind of similar, kind of the same way. Mainland China has never recognized Taiwan as its own country, and in fact, Taiwan, I think that they call themselves the Republic of China. So the Taiwanese, it's almost like they view themselves as uh, I don't know how you want to say it, like the true China. Um, let's take a look at this Taiwan Wikipedia. Um, okay, Taiwan officially the Republic of China, or ROC. See, so that's how they view themselves, the Republic of China, and then Chinese would be the I can't remember the word. I can't remember, but anyway, that's how they view themselves. Uh, Not that they're saying that this isn't China, but they view themselves as Chinese. So whatever. So this has been a big thing for a long time. The United States wanting to keep Taiwan independent, free, with a democracy, and China wanting to reassert control over Taiwan. So are we going to see China try and invade Taiwan? I don't know, but that's what they're talking about right now with NATO, as they're talking with South Korea, which is just right here, Japan, which is right here, and Australia down here. So that's an interesting development. Let's take a look at NATO and how it's grown over the years. So I'm looking at a Wikipedia article. These are the original, excuse me, these are the original founding members. Okay, and I think there's 12. Okay, let me just count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, 12 founding members, which I don't know if that has any sort of theological significance because 12, I don't know, but that's kind of peculiar. But the founding members, the original members of NATO, were the United States, United Kingdom, Portugal, where my mom is from, in Europe. Don't confuse Portugal with Brazil. Norway, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Italy, Iceland, France, Denmark, Canada, and Belgium. Those are the original members. Here is well, we'll come back to this map in a second because after that, the way that it happened was Greece and Turkey were the next to join. Now, this is kind of weird in a way because in World War One, Turkey was the Ottoman Empire, and they were um, not with the Allies. They were against the Allies, right? Uh, so it's just kind of odd to think that, the Ottoman Empire fell, World War II happens, and then later, after World War II, what was the main homeland or the heartland of the Ottoman Empire joins NATO. That's just kind of weird. Anyway, so first you had Greece and Turkey join, and then West Germany, back when Germany was divided into two. And then after that, Spain in the 80s, the only country to join in the 80s. And then after German reunification, then the entirety of Germany joined. And then the Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland in 1999. In 2004, now this was kind of a important year, I guess, because these are a lot of Eastern European countries, right? I'm pretty sure Russia was pretty upset about this. So, and if you look at this map, okay, well, we'll look at the progression in terms of colors in just a minute. So anyway, 2004, Bulgaria, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Romania, Slovakia, and Slovenia. Now, what's interesting here is that in 2004, this is when, at the time, Elder Dallin H. Oaks, gave that talk about the Second Coming. And that's also the year that there was the big earthquake and tsunami in Indonesia. So 2004, there's at least a couple pretty big things that happened. And it just so happens that President Oaks spoke. He gave a talk specifically talking about the Second Coming that year. Because I don't know if like these things, these countries joining NATO, I don't know if that's, if this was an instrumental step toward World War III, because World War III is still a possibility. So, okay, after that, 2009, you had Albania and Croatia join. And remember, Croatia, that's where Jojo, the Joyous Genealogist, her ancestry is from there. We talked about that in the interview. And by the way, I'm going to take this opportunity just to promote her channel again. This is her. You go to my homepage, and then she's the second one right here. You can also go to these tabs and go to channels, and then these are all the people that I'm promoting. So make sure to check out all of them and subscribe. But she has Croatian ancestry. Sorry, I'm a very I think in terms of geography. I'm very geographically minded. That's what I wanted to say. Okay, so after that, in 2017, and that was that crazy year that so many things happened, including the eclipses, Trump's first year in office, and all the things that happened in 2017. Or sorry, the Great American Eclipse. That's what I meant to say. Montenegro joined. Okay, right here, Montenegro. And then the most recent country to join was North Macedonia. Apparently, now I didn't know this, but they changed their name. It used to just be Macedonia, now they're North Macedonia. It's kind of weird. I don't understand why, but that's how it is. And they're just north of Greece, modern day Greece. Okay, this is the most recent. North Macedonia, March 2020. Okay, so pretty soon here, this article is going to be updated. And I suppose, I don't know the exact timeline, but I suppose 2022, there's going to be an entry right here for Finland and Sweden, which blows my mind. You look up here at the map. Okay, now let's look at these colors. So it goes from dark blue to dark green to yellow. This is the chronology. So you can see it kind of started here, then it expanded a little bit. You incorporated Spain and Germany, and then the green is probably some of the most concerning expansions for Russia, if you're Russia, because look at this. You have those small states up here, Estonia, Lithuania, like they used to be part of the Soviet Union. And then you have down here, here's Ukraine. So Ukraine really was, Bulgaria and Ukraine were basically the only two buffers between Russia and NATO. And then up here with Estonia, Lithuania, they are right on Russia's border, right? But just this small little part right here. Now, okay, let me make this bigger. Now, with Finland and Sweden joining, now Russia is going to be touching a lot of NATO, all the way along here, all the way along here, and then if Ukraine had joined NATO, then it would have been all along here as well. So you can kind of understand from Russia's point of view how they feel. Okay, now I'm not really gonna go into who's right, who's wrong, and all that kind of stuff. But you can at least kind of see that point of view. It's as though if if the United States, if Russia had some kind of military alliance, which actually I think that they do with different countries. It's not as powerful, obviously, but if suddenly Canada or Mexico joined with the Russian alliance, that would be very concerning. We wouldn't like that at all. We're already not really happy about Cuba, right? And that's been going on since I'm not exactly sure, the 50s, maybe the 40s. I'm not sure when they became a communist country. But anyway, so okay, so let's look at what Russia has said before this announcement today. What has Russia said about this, if this ever happened? The reality of today. Okay, first, let's see. This is the updated one. Let's go in chronological order, shall we? Okay, so this is April 14th of this year. Russia threatens new nuclear deployments if Sweden, Finland join NATO. Okay, so you get the idea how they feel about that. Russia says a nuclear-free Baltic region would no longer be possible if Finland and Sweden join NATO, alluding to additional nuclear deployments in Europe. So that would mean nuclear weapons in this area, right? In the Baltic. The Baltic, I think, include. Let's just find out for sure. What is the Baltic? Oh, Baltic. Okay, I think I'm thinking. I'm going to be honest with you, and it's embarrassing, but Eastern Europe has never really been my thing. Okay, I've never been really up to snuff when it comes to Eastern Europe. This portion of the map, the world map, has always been kind of a mystery to me. I don't really understand it. I understand most of the rest of the world, but not over here. This is like a big question mark. So the Baltic is up here. So he's talking about this region. Okay, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. Okay. So Sweden and Finland are members of the European Union, but not NATO. And the latter shares a 830-mile border with Russia, specifically Finland. I guess, no, that's not Sweden up there. That's Norway. So Norway shares a tiny little piece right here, but Finland is the one that has this big border with Russia. Okay. So Russia says a nuclear-free Baltic region would no longer be possible if Finland and Sweden became NATO members, alluding to additional nuclear deployments in Europe. Quote, if Sweden and Finland join NATO, the length of the alliance's land borders with the Russian Federation will more than double. Naturally, these borders will have to be strengthened. Dmitry Medvedev, former president and deputy chairman of Russia's Security Council, wrote on his official Telegram channel Thursday. Russia will have to, quote, seriously strengthen the grouping of land forces and air defense, deploy significant naval forces in the waters of the Gulf of Finland. In this case, it will no longer be possible to talk about any nuclear-free status of the Baltic. The balance must be restored, he said. The comments come a day after Finland and Sweden said their decision on whether to apply for NATO membership would come within a matter of weeks. The country's leaders said their security assessments have dramatically changed following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Well, so today, several months later, today, they have the invite. Okay, this is now a month later in May 16th. Putin lobs cryptic new threats at Finland, Sweden for joining NATO. He says, we will react accordingly if Finland and Sweden start housing new NATO weaponry or bases, Putin said during a treaty meeting of former Soviet countries. Russian President Vladimir Putin lobbed new threats at Finland and Sweden as NATO prepares to consider their formal applications for membership, saying Russia did not necessarily view their joining the Cold War era alliance as a direct threat, but that it would have to respond accordingly if they began housing new Western military equipment. Which obviously they would if they become NATO, then of course, they are now, that is new Western military equipment. The expansion of military infrastructure to this territory will certainly cause our response, Putin said during a meeting in Moscow. We will look at what it will be based on the threats that will be created for us. We will react accordingly to this. Putin's new threats against the two countries, steadfastly neutral for decades, if not centuries, until Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February. So this right here, look at that. That's historic. That's a sign of the times. The fact that you have these two countries that have historically been neutral now during this crazy time, these crazy last couple years where everything is just going crazy, this adds to the craziness. That now they are going to be aligned. They're going to be part of an alliance. No more neutrality. That's almost like symbolic, isn't it? That in the spiritual war, people cannot remain neutral anymore. It's like you have to pick a side. So I find that really interesting and possibly symbolic. So Putin's new threats against the two countries comes as Russia faces continued military losses in Ukraine in the face of increasingly united international criticism of its invasion. Okay, so let's move on from there. Okay, this is from Los Angeles Times. Let's see, this is also in May. Ending weeks of standoff, Russia takes Mariupol, but sees setbacks elsewhere. And I have a part here that's highlighted. Responding to announcements by both Finland and Sweden over the weekend that they would apply to join NATO, Russia's deputy minister, Sergei Ryabkov, warned both countries that they were committing a, quote, grave mistake. He said the two Nordic nations were embarking on a misguided path, quote, with far-reaching consequences, according to Russian news reports. Quote, The fact that the security of Sweden and Finland will not be strengthened as a result of this decision is very clear to us. Really? The fact that security of Sweden and Finland will not be strengthened as a result of this decision is very clear to us. The Interfax news agency quoted Ryabkov as saying, quote, "They should have no illusions that we will simply put up with it." End quote. Entry into NATO by Finland and Sweden, long officially non-aligned nations that have avoided allying with major powers, would significantly alter the transatlantic security architecture in existence since the end of World War II. So this is going to, according to this, and I think it's true, it's going to significantly alter this alliance, NATO. You know. Okay, now today, as of right now, Russia condemns NATO's invitation to Finland and Sweden. So this, now that they've been officially been invited, this is what's going on. Excuse me. Russian officials have reacted angrily to NATO's offer of membership to Finland and Sweden. Why can't I pronounce Sweden today? Sweden, calling it a, quote, destabilizing effort that will increase tension in the region. Quote, "We condemn the irresponsible course of the North Atlantic Alliance that is ruining the European architecture, or what's left of it," Russian Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov told reporters on Wednesday. And this is him right here. If you wanted to know what he looks like, this is him. Quote, "I have a great deal of doubt as to whether the upcoming period will be calm for our North European neighbors," he added. What's that supposed? Hey, sir, what is that supposed to mean? "I have a great deal of doubts as to whether the upcoming period will be calm for our North European neighbors." The decision following Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which has prompted Russian neighbors to appeal to NATO for additional security guarantees. Some have said that Russia will target countries in Eastern and Northern Europe that have condemned the war and joined international aid and sanction efforts. A communique, that's weird. Okay. A communique published at a NATO summit in Madrid said that the, quote, "ascension of Finland and Sweden will make them, the allies, safer, NATO stronger, and the Euro-Atlantic area more secure." But in Russia, the news was met coolly. Konstantin Kosachev, a member of Russia's Federation Council, said that the accession of Finland and Sweden into NATO would, quote, "certainly mean a worsening of relations between these two countries and Russia." He noted that Finland and Russia share a long land border, while Russia and Sweden have shared interests in the Baltic and Barents Sea areas. All of the, he said, quote, all this would definitively change for the worse, and definitely not at Russia's initiative." Okay. So I'm not going to read any further, but they're not happy. They're not happy. I think you can kind of understand why. Okay, looking at this from a second coming point of view, this certainly kind of makes the world a little bit more dangerous, I would say. Especially if Russia does decide to act on this. You know, basically, no matter how you look at it, tensions are rising. Tensions are rising between Russia and NATO. And now Russia's being, I don't want to say provoked, but aggravated even more. You can definitely understand why Finland and Sweden would want to join NATO, because they don't want to be like Ukraine, right? They want to ensure their security. And you guys make no mistake. I understand that the world is complex, that there's Gadian robbers, that there's secret combinations. There's different, like when it comes to history and world powers, geopolitical, um, the geopolitics. there's many layers. Uh, some of the top layer, the superficial layer, what's put in the news, some of that is true. It could be that a lot of that is true, but it's not the everything. There's definitely things that are happening behind the scenes. There's different non-national groups that have interests in that they're working for their own interests. So politics and geopolitics are complex. And so the way that I like to approach it is just wait and see, watch what happens, pray for all the innocent that don't want any part of this craziness, regardless of who's responsible, regardless of who's right and wrong. Let's be concerned for, our brothers and sisters that are children of God that live here that are having to deal with this. Okay. I hope that nothing crazy happens as a result of this news today, but who knows? It could. We'll just have to see. All right. That's going to be it for this one. So if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe, like this video if you liked it. If you have a conversion story that you'd like to share via interview with me on Zoom, then email me. Make sure to share this with anyone that's interested in this kind of stuff, and I'll talk to you guys later.